Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my channel. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you to this presentation. So this evening, I would like to share about the data analysis regarding the element of non-parametric data analysis. Okay. So the non-parametric analysis is one of the inferential statistical approach that aim to investigate relationship or differences of any numerical variables that you are going to be explore. Okay, this particular evening, I would like to share about the data analysis using the non-parametric analysis. And then similarly, I'm going to give you some idea about how to run for median and IQR. And after that, in this particular exercise also, I'm going to give you the idea about exporting all of the output and tabulating your results in the Microsoft Word for your thesis write-up procedure. Okay, without further ado, let us open up our data set, and then please let me share my screen. Okay, so as you can see here, this is my screen. All right, and then this is a data that already talking about the KAP, knowledge, attitude, and practices. So I got here A1 until A4 is actually demographic data. And after that, I got B1 until B12 indicate knowledge that already being asked to the respondent. So we got the idea of computing yes, no, something like that. And then based on the researcher literature search, it is indicated that the B1 until B12 did not have any negative questions. That means whoever write yes, that's mean they already understand the topics. And then we got the C1 until C5. This one is actually the attitude score. And then D1 until D5 for the practices score. Okay, before I continue my discussion this evening, I would like to welcome all of you to my channel. And if you would like to comment, please just comment in the live chat that we have here. It's either through the YouTube platform or inside the Facebook platform. Okay, I'm running both of the screens, so therefore I try my best to focus on the screen in front of me so that you can feel the idea of data analysis that we are going through. Okay, so the first step that we need to understand is actually we need to calculate and also compute the numerical data. So most of the time I got this question where a lot of researchers ask me how we want to compute the score, especially in terms of knowledge score. So it's depend on how you construct your questionnaire. So based on this questionnaire, for example, the researcher asks questions, and then they give two options for the respondent to answer whether yes or no. So if the respondent say yes, they will give a good marks, which is 1 mark. And then if they are not answer it right, which is they say no, for example, on a certain statements, then they are going to be recorded as 0. So that's mean they have confusions or poor marks that will be recorded among these respondents. So that is the first idea. We have to compute for the knowledge score. And after that, we also have to look into the attitude score. So the attitude score are going to be computed using mean, summated mean. And then we got a D1 until D5 is actually the practices score is also being computed using mean, approach of the mean. So to calculate that one, we have to do a computational element using transform. And then we can proceed to compute variables. And then after that, I'm going to put here as total.know, means that total knowledge. And then I'm going to specify it as sum of all the variable we have here. Okay, so I have a variable which is the B1, okay, comma, B2, comma, okay, we proceed until B12, okay. B4, B5, B6, B7, B8, B9, B10, B11, and B12. So after that, you have to click the paste button. I'm not going to click the OK button because I'm going to keep those syntax. So actually, for the interest of time, the syntax is already being supplied, or it's already being conducted before. It's just I'm going to repeat it again so that it's benefited to all of you present in this presentation. Okay, so this is for 17 August 2020. Okay, after we instruct the SPSS to compute, I'm going to make a recap. You can just go to transform and then compute. Whatever algorithm that you have for your questionnaire is depend on your literature search and also the previous study justifications. So in my case, in this particular case, I'm going to sum up everything B1 until B12. So by summing up all of these B1 until B12, so we can produce a total.know, means that a total score for this particular respondent. So we can have here a new variables that already been created by the SPSS. So how I do that is actually go to transform and then compute, and after that I'm going to click the paste button, and then the syntax are going to be produced, and I'm going to highlight all those syntax, and then I'm going to hit this green button over here, or we call it as a run button. So after you run it, then the SPSS are going to compute it for you. So we got already the total score for the knowledge. So the next question is actually we want to compute the mean of the attitudes and also the mean for the practices. So we know already the mean for the attitude is actually being marked here, C1 until C5. And the researcher also indicated that there will be no negative feedbacks. That means there is no negative questions lah, with regard to this element. So to do that also same, transform, recode into different variables. Transform, compute, same also. The procedure is the same. It's just now I'm going to put as a mean.att. ATT means attitudes. So I'm going to spell it here mean. So this is what the researcher or any advanced diploma student usually did for their study. Okay, they just study the knowledge, attitude, and practices. It depends on the depth of your analysis. So whatever it is, it should be simplified and it should be well understood by the readers. Okay. After that, I'm going to click the paste button also to generate the syntax, and automatically the computer are going to generate syntax over here. I'm going to highlight it and then press the Control R or Command R if you are using the Macintosh, and then the mean attitudes are going to be produced here also. Okay, the last but not least is actually I'm going to run for the D1 until D5, which is we call it as attitudes. So to speed up the process or to make my life easier, I'm going to copy the same here, but I'm going to change it at a mean.prac. Prac means mean practices. And then as we know, the variable is already being set as D, right? D1, D2, D3, D4, and D5. So same also, you can just highlight everything and then go to Command R and everything will be finished. I hope that within these few minutes, you can have a look and get an idea how we can run an analysis of SPSS by a quick manner, so that you can save a lot of time and then proceed to produce a very good output in your thesis write-up. Okay, so that is sum up everything about the calculations with regard to the Likert scale and also knowledge scales. It depends on the researcher approach. And then the next question is actually we have to run for the normality test. Okay, so the next step is actually normality test. So the normality test enable us to understand the tabulations of data, whether the data is normal or not normal. So before we go further, maybe you are asking me what is the objective of this particular study. So we have an objective. We want to explore the relationship, okay, between the KAP of, in this case, if I'm not mistaken, is about I can't remember about this case study, but I believe it's about something to do with yeah, it's about jaundice. Okay, okay. Explore the relationship between okay, explore the relationship of KAP. Sorry, relationship between explore the relationship between the KAP and the socio-demographic. Okay, socio-demographic. So this is the general objective, and then we have a specific objective. So usually our advanced diploma students required to produce at least 2 or 3 basic understanding of the objective. So usually I may suggest them to produce something like this to understand the socio-demographic of the respondent. Okay, that is the first one, and then the second one is actually to compare the KAP, means that the knowledge, attitude, and practices with different demographic factors. And then perhaps the last but not least is actually to identify relationship, okay, relationship between KAP and demographic factors. So the idea is very simple because we want to know whether the knowledge, attitude, and practices is significantly differ or not significantly differ among those students or those respondents that we collected in this particular study. Okay, after finish everything, then we have to run for normality tests. So for normality test, we have 3 numerical data here. We got a total.know, which is a knowledge score. We got a mean attitudes. We got a mean .prac, means that mean practicals or sorry, mean practices. So to run for normality test, you have to go to analyze and then go to the descriptive statistics and proceed with the explore. And after that, you may want to insert all of your numerical data. In this case, we're not sure whether these 3 variables, which is our DV, it's tabulated normally or not tabulated normally. So therefore, we have to use the command over here. I make a repetition, analyze, descriptive, and then proceed with the explore. So this is how we want to investigate whether the data is normally distributed or not. After you insert everything inside the dependent list, then you may want to go to the plots and then request for the histogram and normality plot with test, and then proceed with the continue button. And then after that, you can hit the OK button. But in this case, I'm going to click paste because I'm going to generate the syntax, because the syntax is very useful for me so that I can understand the tabulations of data, whether the data is normally tabulated or not normally tabulated. So our DV is actually K, A, and P, which is a knowledge, attitude, and practices. And then our DV also being identified by the numerical data, which is our scale will be interval scale. That's mean we sum up everything that we have in our knowledge, and then we compute the summated mean of our attitudes, and then also we sum up the mean of the practices. Okay, so if you can see here, a lot of data indicate that the data indicate that our tabulations of data or our samples that we collected here is actually not normally tabulated. Okay, frankly speaking, is really skewed to the right or left. That's mean we got a lot of extreme values. So in this case, this data is not normal. Okay. So if you can see here, how I justify this data, whether it's normal or not, is actually based on the standard error skewness. Based on the standard error skewness, we can get 0.225. When you times this value with 2, you are going to observe it, the value will be around 0.5. Okay, so 0.5 is actually lower than this value. Okay, if we discarded the negative sign of it, then we can see that it is actually not more than the statistical skewness. Therefore, we justify that this data is not normal. Similarly to these mean attitudes and also mean practices. So that's mean In a nutshell, we can say that this data is not normal. If you don't believe me, then you can look into the histogram. You can look into the normal QQ plot, the trended QQ plot, and then you can see a lot of extreme values being observed in your box plot. Therefore, the non-parametric data analysis are going to be deployed or are going to be run. Okay, so we justify that our data DV was not normally tabulated. Okay, it's actually depend on the researcher. Some of the researcher are intended to still use the parametric analysis. Therefore, they have to do some sort of transformation. But in this case, I'm not going to transform anything. I'm just going to do it in the robust manner. So therefore, I'm going to straight away using the non-parametric data analysis. Okay, so in this non-parametric data analysis, you have to understand what is the inferential statistic that you are going to be used. In this case, the first one, we are going to make a comparison. So to make a comparison, we have to use the differences test. Okay, differences test named as Mann Whitney UZ test, Kruskal Wallis, Friedman test, Wilcoxon rank-sum test. All these things are being considered as the non-parametric data analysis. So to identify the relationship, we are going to use the Spearman-Rowe correlation, or we call it as a relationship correlation. Okay, we call it as a correlation test, and also association, because we can also use a chi-square to identify is there any relationship between two non-metric variables. That's mean between two categorical variable, between the gender, for example, and then we want to see is there any association with the high or low in terms of the mean score of the knowledge. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry. So now, after we conduct everything, then we can proceed to the data analysis in terms of making a comparison between two groups and more than two groups. Okay, please listen to these explanations as it is get more technicals, and then I really hope that you understand this presentation and also demonstration. So if you want to conduct the non-parametric analysis, you have to understand what kind of differences tests that you are going to be embarked. So in this case, I'm going to make a comparison between the age group. Okay, so let me see how many age group that we have. We have more than two groups. Okay, and then we have a number of children. We got two groups, and then we got another factors with regard to the occupation. We got more than two groups, and then last but not least, we got a educational status or educational level. So we got one variables indicated two groups, and then we got three variables indicated more than two groups. So in this case, based on the theoretical understanding, we have to use the Mann Whitney UZ test, and we have to use the Kruskal Wallis test. Okay, when we want to use and how we want to use, I'm going to explore, and then I'm going to give you the explanations and proceed with the how you want to report these findings. Okay, so first of all, you have to understand that this data is not normal. Then you want to make a comparison. So I'm going to start up with the comparison of the median or mean rank between two groups. Okay, in this case, the two group is actually identified as a factor of number of children, whether there is a difference or there is no difference. So to do that, I'm going to click Analyze, and then proceed with the compare mean, and then independent sample t-test. Okay, beware, this is wrong because this is for parametric data analysis. If you are conducting parametric data analysis, then this is okay. But as I mentioned to you before, that this data is not normally tabulated, therefore you have to use the non-parametric test. So for non-parametric test, the arrangement of the menu by the SPSS is already proceed or is already being arranged similarly with the parametric approach. Therefore, you can see here legacy dialog, and then you can proceed with the two independent samples. Okay, so I make a repetition, go to Analyze, non-parametric test, legacy dialog, and then proceed with the two independent samples. This is how you want to make a comparison of numerical data that is not normally tabulated to compare between only two groups. Okay, in this case, I'm going to compare between those who are having first children or more than first children, means that more than one children lah, in terms of how the parents manage the jaundice in terms of their knowledge. Okay, so the rule of thumb is very simple. Insert your numerical data. In this case, knowledge inside the test variable. Okay, insert your variables or your variable of interest inside your test variables, followed by the grouping variables. Okay, I make a repetition. Go to analyze, non-parametric, legacy dialog, 2 independent samples. And then automatically, as you can see here, the computer are going to identify this one as default for the Mann Whitney U test. Therefore, you can use this total knowledge, insert the test variable, and then proceed with the grouping variable. In this case, I'm going to look for the number of children. Okay, and then if you forgot what kind of group that you already use, you are going to look into your values. Okay, it is 1 and 2. And then therefore, you can define the groups here as 1 and 2. This is how you want to run for non-parametric data analysis named as Mann Whitney Z test. Okay, after that, you can proceed with the paste button over here. And then the syntax are going to be produced for you. Okay, if you got any question during my presentation, ladies and gentlemen outside there who hear or enjoy watching this video, please do comment in the comment sections of the live chat. And then if you got anything to ask, please ask, because I'm willing to answer all of your question. Okay, so the idea of doing the non-parametric data analysis is actually to know and understand whether there is a difference in terms of the mean rank for these variables. So we are actually testing the mean rank for the people in terms of their knowledge, whether they got a first child or not a first child. As you can see here, the first child, the mean rank is approximate 60.86, and then followed by 58.18. And then we can see that the Mann Whitney U, this is the U statistics that you have to report in your write-up. And then this is your Z statistics that you have to report in your tables. Okay, remember, U statistics will be used in your write-up, and then Z statistic will be explained or will be spelled out inside your table. So this is your asymptotic significant in terms of two-tail. Means that you are going to use the non-directional hypothesis. So it is indicated that the level is 0.755, which is more than 0.05. Then we fail to reject the null hypothesis, and we are going to say that there is no significant difference in terms of these variables. That means there is no difference of the knowledge for those who are having first children or not a first children. However, this one is mean rank, and it is not appropriate to report for the mean rank. Therefore, you have to report for the median and also for the IQR. Median and IQR for your DV. So in this case, my DV will be total.knowledge. I'm going to ask the computer to analyze automatically the knowledge in terms of the median of the knowledge for the group A or the first child, and then the total knowledge for the group another one, which is the median lah. The MCT will be median. The MCT here is actually stand for measurement of central tendency. Okay, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, because all the syntax is already available in the descriptions of this YouTube channel. You can just copy it and then just manipulate according to the name of your variables, your own variables. Okay, so after you insert the measurement of central tendency, and then you know already there is no difference, then the next step you have to report the MCT and also the MD. Okay, the MD. So because this is the non-parametric data, therefore our MCT will be median and our MD will be IQR. To do that, you have to ask the computer to run it for you. So to make your life much more easier, I'm going to share with you the trick to request for the median and IQR using SPSS for the non-parametric approach. So to do that, you have to use the data over here, and then you can ask the computer to split the file by asking them to split based on the factor that you are going to investigate. In this case, I'm going to split them according to the children. I'm going to insert here, and then I'm going to hit the paste button. See, similarly, I'm not going to hit the OK button. Despite of that, I'm going to hit the paste button because I want to generate the syntax. So actually, we ask the computer actually run this code or run this process by, okay, analyze the differences using non-parametric test named as Mann Whitney for identifying is there any difference between the knowledge between these two groups. And then we ask the computer, okay, computer, please sort based on this factor. A2 is actually the number of children. And then the next step that you have to remember is to request those MCT and MD. So to request those MCT and MD, go to Analyze, Descriptive, and then proceed with the frequencies. Under the frequencies here, you have to insert your variables. So my variable will be total knowledge over here, and then proceed with the statistic over here, and then request accordingly the median and also the quartile. So automatically the computer already understand that you want these variables to be computed in the form of what kind of statistical manner. So that is the command. Okay, I'm giving you another recap or another demonstrations. You go to the Analyze, Descriptive, and then Frequency, and then ask the computer to run for the median and IQR for the total knowledge. So you can just specify over here median and quartile, and then proceed with the continue. And then in this case, I'm going to disable the display frequency table because I'm not going to look at it, because I'm just going to look at the summary of these findings, and then press the paste button over here. After you click the paste button, the syntax are going to be produced for you. So automatically you can see here that the syntax is already indicated the variable for this thing, and then find the quantile and so on. And then the last but not least, after you run everything using the syntax, what I will do, go to the data and then go to the split file, make sure you reset everything and then paste. Or you type manually using split off. Okay, split off. As simple as that. So after you finish this code, then theoretically speaking, your non-parametric data analysis is complete. You can just highlight everything over here and then hit the run button, and the computer are going to give you the statistical analysis over here, and also they give you the MCT and MD straight away. Means that the median and IQR are going to be produced for you. And then I'm going to share with you how you want to report this finding after this, okay? So similarly, and then the trick much more simpler. This trick will encourage you to run for another test also. In this case, for example, I'm going to run for other tests in terms of total.knowledge. Maybe I want to explore more on the another variables. Mean.att means that mean attitude, and then I can proceed with the mean.prac. However, you cannot do it straight away here. Okay, you have to copy it first. Okay, you can copy this one, and then you can proceed with the another variable here. You can this one is for knowledge. Okay, you can just put some idea here, knowledge. And then to make your life easier, you can just focus on attitudes. Okay, you can just change this one. Just change the name of it, mean.att. Okay, and then mean.att also same to compare between the first child and also more than first child. And then you can just highlight everything. Okay, this one also need to be changed, mean.att. So the computer are going to run everything also, and then find is there any differences in terms of the mean rank for this particular data. Okay, you can see here the mean attitudes also being performed for the median and IQR for the variables. Okay, before I go further, I got a comment over here from Mr. Samuel Abidon Alera. Great session. Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you, Mr. Samuel. Okay, this kindly explain your measurement scale. All right, so thank you very much. So my measurement scale, Mr. Samuel, and also to all the participants who joined this webinar, I'm going to use interval scale, where my questionnaire is actually consists of 12 questions, and then my attitude is actually 5 Likert scale question, and then I got the practices is 5 Likert scale questions. So the idea is actually sum up everything, or I'm going to add everything for the question 1 until question 12 for my knowledge. And those who are getting 12 over 12 means that they are very clever. And then for the attitudes, I'm going to calculate the mean score for the attitudes. So I'm going to ask the computer to run the mean, and then followed by question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I've got 5 items for the construct of the attitudes. And then same also goes to the practices, okay? So we were taught Likert scale is ordinal scale. Yeah. Likert scale, as a raw Likert scale is an ordinal scale. That is a very correct statement, and that is what your professor or lecturer said is very correct. The ordinal scale or the Likert scale is actually, as it is an ordinal scale. However, if you compute or if you conduct some sort of computational element of that ordinal scale, then you can construct an interval scale. Okay, I made a further explanation like this. Okay, so this is the example. I got a Likert scale over here, strongly disagree until strongly agree. I agree with you, and I also agree with your lecturer, said that the Likert scale is ordinal scale, is correct. However, if you are utilizing this ordinal scale in the sense of a computational element, there are a lot of debate actually based on this thing. But majority of the researchers suggest that if the construct it's happened to be agreed with each other, then you can compute those construct accordingly. Therefore, when you compute, it's no longer become ordinal. It already being higher rank into another scale of measurement. We call it as a interval scale. But it still cannot become a ratio scale, you see, because a ratio scale is a arbitrary zero, which is the zero have meaning. In this case, the zero did not have meanings. Therefore, the highest that they can proceed is actually the interval scale only. So remember that when you run any Likert scale as it is an ordinal scale. So some of the authors or some of the researchers usually calculate the mean for the each of the question, for example, as the overall situation of their respondent also can be accepted on the certain journals. But in my professional opinion, I prefer that you have to run those analyses based on your construct first. You have to understand your construct using the exploratory factor analysis. And if your construct is happen to be proving some sort of theoretical framework, then you can compute those construct accordingly. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Samuel. If you got any questions, also you can ask. All right. So let me proceed with another trick. So actually, you can copy and paste this syntax and then proceed with another variables, which is this case, I'm going to run for the practices. Okay, it's just for the safe approach. Please make sure that you put the split off in the beginning of your analysis and then in the end of your analysis. Okay, this is just, I would say that it is a play safe manner to make sure that everything is run in the control condition. Okay, I'm so sorry. I forgot to change the name of the variable. You see, I did not save my output, you see, because the most important actually is not the output, but it's actually the syntax, because the syntax can be rerun again and again for your use. Okay, so this one I'm going to change it as a mean.prac, means that mean practical, and then same also this one as a mean.prac. Okay, I hope you understand the use of the syntax and also the trick behind of computing and analyzing those non-parametric data analysis. Okay, highlight everything and then you can hit the run over here. and then the output are going to be produced for you. Automatically, you can have here median and also IQR accordingly. So you can have also here. So you can see that the mean practices is actually significantly differ in terms of the mean practices when you compare the mother with the first child and also the mother with more than the first child, which is more than first child means that they are more practical in nature and also they are more experienced. Okay, in this case, this is actually a real study. Okay, being conducted among the mother with their children having jaundice. Okay, all right. So we have an idea of the Mann Whitney UZAC test. So let us continue with another one. I love to share with you one example only, okay? And then after that, you can have the idea and then you can sort of exploring it by yourself. And in the end of the day, all the syntax is actually being produced and all this data analysis is actually completed. It's just I'm going to give the idea to all of you how we run it in the robust manner so that it's benefit to most of you outside there. Okay, so the next one we want to compare based on more than two groups. Okay, as you know, when you compare more than two groups and your data is not normal, then you have to use the Kruskal Wallis test. So same also the idea of Kruskal Wallis, you have to use the analyze, non-parametric, proceed with the legacy dialog, and then proceed with the K independent samples, because the K independent samples means that it is more than two groups. So after that, you insert your variable over here, and then as you can see here, as default, the computer are going to explain it and also tick it as the Kruskal Wallis H test, and then you can ask your grouping variable. In this case, I'm going to use the grouping variable occupation A3, okay? And then the range for the occupation, if I'm not mistaken, is actually 1 until 4, and then go to continue, and then paste accordingly. Then you can proceed to use the same thing, but remember, use the syntax lah, because the syntax can speed up the process very well, okay? All right, so I think my syntax is actually having problems due to some technical nature of the computational element. Okay, back up. Okay, fail to be safe. It's okay. I think because of the computer performance is being disrupted a little bit, but it's okay. I already saved it before, and I'm just going to open it again. All right, so that is sum up everything about the use of the differences test. Okay, so before I proceed with another one, we call it as a correlation. Let us have a look with our variables that we already insert. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to reopen my syntax back. I'm so sorry because of some technical issues. And then if you've got any question, you can ask. Okay, I'm just going to slowly share with you the step of using the syntax. Okay, all right, I'm going to open the syntax. Okay, so this is the syntax. So the first one we compute, and then the second one we compute also. After that, we know already the data is not normal, and then we make a comparison test based on the two groups. You see that we run it in a robust manner. In this case, I'm going to run it in a straight away. Total knowledge, mean.att, mean practices, and what happened is actually the computer are going to run everything simultaneously for you. So you can see here total knowledge, mean attitudes, and also mean practices straight away, giving the idea whether there is a different or there is a no different between these variables. Okay, I got a question over here. Let me entertain this question. Adam Zahari. Salam, Mr. Shazwan. I want to ask, maybe out of topic, it is necessary or important for every research to run mean for each, because I collected the each data in range. Okay, so if you collected the data in range, I think it's not range lah. I think it is in the form of certain classified range. Example 20 to 30, like you said just now. So actually your data output is a nominal scale already. You cannot run for any mean, or you cannot run for anything with regard to the mean. I give you an example. Okay, this is the idea of my age. Okay, if you can see that the age group is actually being classified into three different range. So this data is actually not a numerical data at all. It is very not numerical data. So that's mean this data is considered nominal scale data. So I cannot present any mean with regard to the age. I can only project and explain the percentage and also frequency of each of the age group that already been classified. That's why if you want to calculate the mean of the age, make sure you ask for the numerical facts of the respondent. Means that please enter your age in years, for example. Then you can get the ordinal scale that further on you can continuing it to understand whether it is what is the mean, spread and so on. Okay, so another question, perlu ke semua data kita buat test normal ataupun tidak? Okay, it's very good question. Okay, because of the international participant, I'm going to reread this statement. Is that necessarily for us to run the normality test, whether it is normal or not? So the answer will be very simple. It is depend on your DV. The most important things in your data analysis is your DV. If your DV is not normally tabulated, then non-parametric data analysis will be one of the option. If your DV means that your dependent variables, what is actually your objective of your study? Sometimes your objective of the study, you want to study the knowledge, you want to study the score of something, you want to study the nature of happening or not happen, means that the DV is categorical data. It is not a big matter. In the end of the day, you have to understand what is your DV. If your DV, for example, life or death, that's mean categorical data. No normality tabulation data will be involved. However, remember, your DV is the most important element in terms of running for the normality test. Okay. Sometimes some of the researchers also may suggest that you can also run for the normality of data due to the fact that you want to find the your IVs also, whether it is normal or not normal. Because correlation, for example, you have to make sure that your IV and DV is normally tabulated. Therefore, you have to run for normality test between these two variables. Even though I said just now, the most important thing is actually your DV. And then sometimes maybe your IV also need to be explored in terms of their tabulation per se, right? So that is the idea. Okay, let me continue. Okay, and then if you can see here, I got three groups. Three groups also same. I'm going to run for the three group. As you can know, as you can see here, A3 is actually talking about the education and so on. You can sort of download the data and then just click Control A and Control R. Everything output are going to be produced for you free of charge. No problem. You can still use this syntax also for your study. Just remember to change the variables according to the name of the variable that you set in your data set. Okay, so if I run everything here, then you can see that it is actually being tabulated nicely. And then to do that, I'm going to make a repetition. If you are going to run for Kruskal Wallis test, for example, Kruskal Wallis. So Kruskal Wallis. So Kruskal Wallis is actually comparing the differences between more than two groups. So you have to use the analyze, non-parametric, legacy dialog, K independent samples, and then proceed with the variables. So insert your variable here, total knowledge. And then if you're confident to run everything inside this one also can, and then proceed with the occupations, and then occupation got 4 different categories. So 1 through 4, and then go to the paste. I'm not going to hit the OK because I'm going to generate the syntax so that the syntax are going to help me after this. Okay, so to make my life much more easier, I'm going to ask the computer to split file off. Okay, so this is the command of it. All right, so the next step, remember when you run for non-parametric data analysis, you have to run for the MCT median and also IQR. To request that one, filter first your factor. So what is my factor? My factor is A3. Same also, go to D, split file, and then ask the computer to filter everything according to the different occupations, and then go to the page, and then you are actually giving the instruction to the SPSS to run the data analysis after the line 240 over here to run the data analysis according to the different occupation or factor that you mentioned just now. And then I'm going to insert everything because I'm so lazy. I'm going to insert everything around here, and I go to the statistics and then make sure the median and quartile is already being ticked or the checkbox is already being choose, and then click the paste, and then the syntax are going to be given to you. And then I'm going to copy the split off over here so that the analysis are contained in the specific region. So automatically, if you can see here, the data analysis is already being produced. Therefore, we can see that the asymptotic significance showing that the Kruskal Wallis test show a significant difference in terms of the different occupations. Okay, so this is occupations. And then you have to report for the MCT and MD with regard to the median and IQR. So that is the idea. Okay, so let us have a look with my previous syntax that already been created before. After two groups, after comparing the data, and then we can proceed with the another one. We have to change the category. Okay, this one is to core category, means that we change the category, or we recode everything into a categorical data, means that we change the situations of the numerical data into categorical data because we want to run for the chi-square. Okay, why we run for the chi-square? Because we want to run for the association. Why we run for the association? Because our IV is actually non-numeric. If you got numerical data, example your age in numeric, then you can run for Spearman-Rowe correlation because your DV is not normal, right? But in this case, my 4 independent variables or my 4 social demographic factors is actually a categorical data. Therefore, I cannot do much more. I can just only using the association test, which is in this case, I'm just going to use the chi-square. But to use the chi-square, you cannot run it straight away because your DV is actually in the numerical data. Therefore, you have to change the numerical data into a categorical data. So how you want to change? You have to recode. There are a lot of videos that are already being produced in my channel talking about this recode mechanism. But I'm going to share with you how to do it in the robust manner, I mean in the simplified version. Go to transform, recode into the different variables. Means that I'm going to change the total.know into the know.cat. Cat is not the name of the animal, it's actually category. And then go to the change, and then you can go to the old and new values. So old and new values is very important because you want to classify the high and the low. Is depends on the literatures that already being explained or discussed before. So in this case lah, for example, I'm just going to say that, okay, group 10 until 12 is considered to be group number 2. I can do that because I'm the researcher of this study, example only. And then the lowest through 10 will be coded as group 1. So group 1 will be explained or will be proven as the low knowledge. And then 2 is actually being classified as a good knowledge. That is the example. And then go to the paste. Usually, I will not go to the OK. Despite of the OK, I'm going to use the recode because the recode is very helpful to us. I mean, in terms of my data analysis technique, because it speed up my my data analysis time. You see, when you want to change some things, I'm just going to highlight everything and then run it, and automatically the outputs are going to be here. And then in the next video, hopefully inshallah in my channel, I'm going to explain also how you can ask the computer to name your variable using syntax. There are certain codes involved, which is I think worth for sharing. I mean, not now, but in the future. So I got here knowledge.cat, att.cat, and also prac.cat. So all of this cat is actually referred to the category where we identify as group 1 is considered high group, and then 0 is considered low. Okay, in this case, low, and then 1 is high. Right, so we classify everything here. 0 is low and then 1 is high. Okay, and then last but not least, same also here is 0, low, and then 1 is high. So actually, you can run your data analysis less than 1 hour, and then you can proceed, finish everything, not writing your codes lah, more on running everything using SPSS, and then save it accordingly, and then actually it's finished. Then you can graduate for your bachelor science or advanced diploma program or even a master program, but of course the master program need to run more robust statistical application, statistical analysis technique. Okay, you have to do regression analysis and so on. All right, so actually all of the data is actually here, and then we got our DV that already been classified into category. Remember why I categorize those variables. I got a knowledge score already, but I need to categorize it. Why? Why I need to make it a group? Because in the end of the day, it is a numerical facts already. I have to make it a group because all of my independent variables or my factors are in group. Then I cannot make a relationship. It is wrong. You cannot use the Spearman-Rowe correlation with the ordinal scale. Cannot. You have to use the Spearman-Rowe correlation, ordinal scale. With ordinal scale, it's okay. So numerical scale that is non-parametric data analysis like this is actually not very appropriate. I'm not saying cannot, but I said not appropriate. So the best thing to do is actually using the association test by chi-square. Okay, and therefore the chi-square here is already being explained and also shown to you. So you might wonder why only A2 and A3 come into the picture. Where is the A1? Where is the A4? The question is actually why only A2 and A3? Where is the A4 and A1? The answer will be because the only significantly differ in terms of all these variables is actually A2 and A3 only. That's why we construct our objective something like this. We have to understand the socio-demography of the respondent, and then we want to make a comparison which of the socio-demographic factors actually differ, because those socio-demographic factors that is differ can be further analyzed to find out whether that is related or not related. So if you find out that your demographic factor is not significantly differ in the first place, for example, then you have to neglect those variables in the end of the day, because it is also will not contribute in terms of influencing your occurrence of something in terms of associated with your DV. So that is the idea. That's why a lot of students in terms of degree student, in terms of advanced diploma students have to conduct these exercises, because they have to understand when you make a comparison, the comparisons showing that there is no difference, that means that is not affected. But if there is a difference in terms of that variables, then you have to do some sort of further data analysis. Okay. So the next question or the next step that I'm going to share with you is actually how to write a report. Okay, how to write a report. So to write a report, you have to open up your you have to open your Word over here, and then you can proceed to name your variable. Okay. So the first step is actually go to the table 1. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to share with you the table 1 because the table 1 is actually demographic data. I'm going to proceed with the table 4 example only. Okay, table 4 is actually talking about a comparison of the knowledge between demographic factors. Okay, so I'm going to make it much more bigger so that all of you can see it. All right, comparison of the knowledge between demographic factors. And remember, this is the idea of non-parametric data analysis. So non-parametric data analysis, you have to do something like this. Non-parametric data analysis. Okay, so the first step, you have to go to the insert and then proceed with the tables and then make a few column and rows, something like this, and then proceed with the variables. And then the next step that you have to do is you have to specify what kind of variables that you are going to explore. In this case, I'm going to explore about the knowledge. And the knowledge is actually being compared with a different age. Okay, and then the age got a few groups. Okay, we got less than 21, we got that 21 until 30, and then we got more than 30. This is example only. So this is the groups. Okay, this is the age group. And then we got another variables named as follows. What is the another variables? So another variable will be, if you can see here also, you can get the idea lah. So basically, we got the, okay, I'm going to rerun back this one. Comparison, okay, this one. I'm going to start up with this one. Okay, so we got the total score, mean attitude score, and also mean practices in terms of the different occupations, and also in terms of the different variables. So in a nutshell, if you are going to use something like this, also can, because you've got 4 variables each, and then you got number of children. Okay, and then you have the next one will be another factor. So 1 or more than 1. Okay, so the next one will be occupation. Okay, I can't remember the occupation, but I believe the occupation got 4 different occupations. Okay, you can just specify here. And then the next one, the last but not least, is actually education. Okay, I'm just going to spell it as a ABC lah to speed up the process. And then the last but not least is actually education. Okay, this one also I'm going to talk about ABC lah because I'm going to save the time. So the next one is actually you have to report for the mean. It's wrong, right? It's not mean. It's actually a median. And then the next that you have to report is actually the IQR. So the IQR is actually talking about the 25th percentile ataupun or we call it as a Q1 and also the Q3. So you can find out this Q1 and Q3 where you can find out the Q1 and Q3 is actually here. Okay, so this is your Q1 and this is your Q3. Okay, example will be like this. Okay, this is your median. Okay, this is your Q1, this is your Q3 for the housewife, for the skilled worker, for the government student, for the professional in terms of the knowledge score. So to make your life much more easier, okay, I'm just going to give you one more trick. So usually what I did is actually I'm going to copy everything and then paste it inside Microsoft Excel and then do some sort of transpose. You know, transpose means that we remove here and there because we want to save a lot of time. Then you can have very beautiful tables that can be copy and paste and then insert it inside our Microsoft Word tables. Okay, so that is the idea. So this table is actually not complete because we have to insert another column over here. So as I mentioned to you before, usually we put the Z statistic over here and then we put the p-value over here. So the Z statistic is actually talking about is there any difference in terms of the median, in terms of the mean rank for the knowledge between different age group or not, then you have to report accordingly. So how to find it? You can find it inside our output. Okay, if you don't understand, please let me know so that I can make a repetition. Okay, so I got a few questions over here. So the first one, Adam Zahari, thank you sir. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Adam. And then we got a comment from Mr. Edward. Assalamualaikum sir. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you, all of you? I hope you all fine. Okay, so let me give you the real situation lah. Otherwise you cannot see and then you are messing around, right? So let me run for this analysis. Comparing the knowledge between different age. So this syntax is actually here. Comparing the knowledge between different age. Okay, so different age is actually A1. Okay, age is actually A1. So where is my A1? Okay, this is my A1. You see, this is my A1. So I'm going to highlight everything and then go to Control R, means that I'm running it. So I got here already. You see the total score, mean attitudes, and also mean practices. So I'm going to copy these tables. And then I'm going to open up my Microsoft Excel because I'm going to copy it everything around here and then make manipulations much more easier. This is one of the steps involved in these things. You can also use the other methods. Okay, so I'm going to delete this thing actually because this is the median, right? So the median usually being removed like this. And then also I'm going to remove all of these descriptive statistics that been given by the SPSS. Okay, so I'm going to remove all of these. Okay, and then last but not least, also this one, I'm going to remove it. Okay, so everything is actually ready to be manipulated. So the trick is actually very simple, ladies and gentlemen. You know what? I'm going to do like this. I'm going to copy everything of this data and I'm going to use the paste special and then proceed with the transpose. So if you can see here, I'm transposing this value, right? 25th and 75th. Okay, 25th and 75th percentile for the total knowledge in terms of the group. There's a certain group lah. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing, but actually copy all of these variables to be inserted down here. Okay, so the idea is actually to arrange everything so that it is according to your structure for your Microsoft Word. Then you can just copy everything and then paste it back in your Microsoft Word, and then it's finished. And then don't forget to insert your Z statistics. Okay, your Z statistics can be found out here. So this is your Z statistics. It's indicate that the total knowledge is 0.396. It is more than 0.05. That's means we failed to reject null hypothesis, and we are going to say there is no difference in terms of the total knowledge when comparing with the different age group. Okay, so that is the idea. So in terms of write up, so I'm going to share with you how to write up a report or how to come out with very good reports in terms of your data analysis. Wait, I'm going to give you the idea. Let me open up the example here so that you can learn from it whether it is correctly correct. Okay, never mind. I don't have. Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't have the file with me. Okay, so you can have explanations. Okay, table 4 shows the differences that's regarding the what is it? It's knowledge. Okay, between different demographic factors. Okay, sometimes if you cannot do whatever that I did just now, then the least that you can do, actually the worst case is actually copy and paste for the manual conditions. Means that you just write it manually, okay, in terms of this one. Okay, for example, this one is actually less than 19, 20, 30. Okay, I'm so sorry about the identification here, but frankly speaking, is talking about this one is 11. So this one is actually 12. Okay, this one is actually 12. So the Q1 is actually 8.5, for example. Okay, followed by this one is 12. Okay, and then this one 10, and then followed by 12, and then last but not least is 11, and then 12. Okay, and then put your Z statistics. So your Z statistic will be here. Okay, put your Z statistic. Sorry, not Z statistic. This one is actually Kruskal Wallis. Usually I'm going to put it as statistics and then put notation up there and then put some notes here and then indicate that Kruskal Wallis. Okay, Kruskal Wallis test. So you can put the statistical of Kruskal Wallis 1.855 followed by the p-value 0.396. And then we are going to say that there is no difference lah based on this. And then followed by the another variables, okay? So after you finish write up everything, then you should finish doing all this thing within a few hours. I think one day should be fine. And then your data analysis will be finished lah. And then ready for you to sum up everything in your data, in your write up. And then you can proceed with the chapter 5. Okay, that is the idea regarding the data analysis using parametric. All right, so before I end up the session, let me last give you the idea for the table number 5, which is the association test. Okay, association test usually involved in the chi-square data analysis. So majority of our students or majority of you also did not do it correctly. So how to perform correct tabulations of the chi-square. Okay, so I'm going to share with you how to do that. So the step is very simple. Example like this. We are going to make a presentation of the practical practices score, which is low practices, high practices, and also number of children. So to do that, you have to construct a table also. But the table for the chi-square is a little bit tricky because you are going to put the IV on this column. In this case, is actually number of children. Okay, in terms of this number of children. Okay, so you got two type of number of children. which is one or more than one. Okay, and then you got two different type of categories in terms of their practices. Okay, so this one is actually practices low, this one is actually practices high. Okay, so you have to specify your F and also your percentage. Okay, that is the idea. F and also percentage. F, it means that frequency, and H is actually percentage. So the next column is actually you put the statistics. So usually we put the symbols of the chi-square, and the last is actually p-value. So how to report is actually you put your data here. Okay, you put your data here. All right, so you can have here 9 and 36. So you put here as 9 in the bracket 36.0. Okay, so the next one will be 16. Okay, 16 and followed by 64.0. So same also for the practices high, 5.5, and then last but not least is actually 86. Okay, the frequency, the most frequent one is actually 86. 94.5, and then followed by the statistical analysis or statistical data. But remember, if your cells is actually violated the chi-square assumptions, therefore you cannot use the Pearson chi-square. Therefore, you have to choose the alternative. In this case, I'm going to use the Fisher exact. So Fisher exact did not have any statistical meaning, but they have the p-value. So I'm going to spell out as a p-value is actually less than 0.01. So that is the idea. This is how you want to report for the chi-square. We call it as the association test. And usually for the association, you also are going to report your symmetric measures. So your symmetric measures you can put here as a pi, and Kramer's V statistics is actually, what is the value? 0.3, 0.385, okay, with the p-value less than 0.01. So that is how you want to report the pi and Kramer's V in terms of your data analysis. And all the tables that I shared with you just now is actually not complete, because you have to remove all of the line in terms of the vertical line. You just maintain the horizontal line of this data that you are already tabulated in. Okay, so that is almost everything that most important thing to be discussed and also explained to you. I hope that you got some idea. Please allow me to explore something first, because I would like to know and see about something. Oh, okay. I know already. Okay, let me open this one. All right. So I'm going to explain and also give you an idea about the write-up, okay, about the write-up for this particular research, whether the write-up it's okay or the write-up it's need to be improved in the future. Okay, so we got here the write-up. Okay, so let me change a little bit the write-up to make it anonymous. Okay, so this is the write-up for the data analysis that I already showed to you just now. So this is the example of using the data analysis in terms of the variables. Okay, so this is actually a command for our students. Okay, that who are who are in the phase of writing up your thesis. So this is the idea that is wrong. Yeah, this is the first thing, for the first mistake that I already discovered is wrong lah. Because you cannot find the mean for this age, because it means that the age is 2 years old. Is not correct. This one is not correct. It's very wrong. You have to remove this mean and standard deviation, because your answer for the age is actually not correct, because your age is actually not numerical, so it is totally wrong. So you have to remove this mean and standard deviation. So number of children also wrong, because you not ask the mother in terms of their number of children. You are just asking the mother which one that you want to tick which one that you want to choose, whether you want to choose that the mother having one children or the mother having more than one children. So this one also is not correct. Okay, it's wrong. So you have to adjust accordingly. Occupation also wrong. So you have to remove it. So if the examiner did explore this thing, you will be in trouble because it is not very correct. Because your variables in the first place is actually a nominal variable. So nominal variable did not have MCT. Okay, before I go further, let me recap this one. Thank you so much, sir. Can you please also explain hypothesis null and alternative, which is negative and which should be stated in our research paper? Oh, okay. So before I begin with the null and alternative hypothesis, let me just recap a little bit, Mr. Samuel. So just now, I already explained to all of you in terms of our hypothesis, right? But before hypothesis being generated, you have to understand your objective. So in this objective, for example, to compare the KAP, to compare the knowledge. Let me remove the AP first, just focus on the K, knowledge. So to compare the knowledge with different demographic factors. So what is the null? So the null is actually the hypothesis of origin, okay? Null is hypothesis of origin. Okay, hypothesis of origins means that it is in a normal condition. So if you say that is a normal condition, so you want to compare with the demographic factors, what is your factor? In terms of gender, let's say I got a factor in terms of gender. I want to see whether male or female get higher knowledge or lower knowledge. So our hypothesis of origin or our initial assumption, we are going to say that male and female score will be similar, or we call it as the mean for the male and mean for the female will be the same. That means they are almost the same in terms of their tabulations. Male and female are similar. That is the idea. So that is what we call it as a null hypothesis. And then we got the alternative hypothesis. So alternative hypothesis also being divided into two types. So we got two types. The first one, we call it as a directional. The second one is non-directional. So when we say that male is not equal to female in terms of the mean, okay, this is the example of the parametric analysis lah. So this is the non-directional. Why I said non-direction? Because we are saying male and female is not the same, but we're not sure which one are higher, which one are lower. This is what we call it as alternative hypothesis, or HA, that is non-direction, do not have direction. When you do not have directions, then you have to look into the two-tail. That is the idea. When you run for the statistical data analysis in the SPSS, you are going to see the tail, two-tail, one-tail, whatsoever tail that talking about. So that tail is actually talking about whether you are going to use the direction or non-direction. Usually, people are going to play it safe. They are going to use the alternative non-directional. Means that they are going to look in the robust at the two-tail. So also, we got another alternative hypothesis. We call it as the directional. So directional means what? We have a direction. Male more than female, or female more than male. So more than, less than a certain group, that one is called directional hypothesis. So that is the idea of hypothesis testing in terms of the null and alternative. I think it is sort of answering Mr. Samuel question just now. But if you want to know more, you can refer to my previous videos that already discussed around 1.5 hours focusing on the hypothesis testing. Perhaps it's going to be helpful for you. I'm going to note it also at the minutes of 1 hour 30 minutes. I'm going to give the link in the description of this video about the hypothesis testing. Thank you, Mr. Samuel, for your questions. Which is negative and which is should be stated in our research. Okay, for your information, it's actually in the different school of thought. Usually, your professor may ask you to put your null and alternative, but it is different school of thought. But in my opinion, the most important thing is actually your alternative, because the null should not be reported in the first place, because we already know the null is actually assumption of origin. If you're not doing anything, what is the standard or what is the typical situations that we are going to talk about. Okay, example. We are going to measure the weight of the male and female. What is the null? The null will be weight of male and female will be the same. That is our assumption, our original assumption. We are going to say that, oh, okay, actually A and B is similar. Oh, B and C is actually similar. So that is called assumption of origin. However, we are scientists. Therefore, we got a certain idea that we want to prove that, oh, maybe this factor might influence something. Therefore, it is differ. Therefore, you construct your assumption, additional assumption, which means what? Alternative assumptions. So those alternative assumptions need to be reported for the readers so that the readers understand whether you are going to use the directional hypothesis or non-directional hypothesis. And when you are going to use the directional hypothesis, you are going to use the one tail. So if you saw any two tail result from the output SPSS, for example, then you have to divide by 2. Okay, example, you see like this, asymptotic significance showing that 0.396 is actually for 2 tails. So if you are talking about 1 tail, you have to divide it by 2. So this value divided by 2, you got 0 point something. So that is how you want to use the SPSS and also assumptions testing in terms of your null and alternative. I hope this answers your question. Okay, so I shall continue with another idea. So table should be actually put on the top of the tables. Okay, so this one need to be repaired accordingly. Overall, each mu is equal to 2.13 is wrong. So if you say that the mu is actually 2.13, means that the respondent is actually 2 years old. What is the respondent 2 years old have a jaundice baby? So it's not correct. So you have to change accordingly. This one is totally wrong. You have to make a change of it. Okay, which also indicate that the mean score at the low level is mother age below 19. Okay. However, okay, I have to justify a little bit. However, if this mean is actually talking about the mean of the knowledge, then it's different story. But you have to specify accordingly. I don't believe it. This one is the mean of knowledge. If this is mean of knowledge, you should report it here, or you should put some sort of idea here. So this is the mean of your variable, then it's wrong, because your age is actually 1, 2, 3. So if you sum up everything become a mean, then of course the mean will be produced. The SPSS is actually a robot. You will set something, it will analyze for you. But if you wrongly interpret, then the examiner may ask you to resubmit your thesis back lah. Okay. So I got another comment here. Wonderful session. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. You are the best. Oh, okay. Thank you for your comments. All right. So let me continue. So this one also not correct lah. Okay, overall mean is actually 1.88 is very, very wrong. Number of children 1.88. Because in the end of the day, the researcher did not ask how many children. They just asked, please tick accordingly. What kind of group you are indicating yourself. So it's actually wrong. Okay. So you have to make adjustment. Educational level also is wrong. Very wrong. You have to make a change of this. Okay. Analysis of the study findings. So this is the analysis in terms of each of the questions. Okay. This is actually being debated among researchers. So I'm not going to scrutinize it very in a very deep manner because of the interest of time. I'm just going to say that I think it depends on your supervisor. If your supervisor seems that it is meaningful, then proceed as it is. If it is not meaningful, then you may not want to proceed. Okay, why? Because you can see that your question is actually 0 and 1. So of course, 0 and 1, the only possible probable will be between 0 and 1. So that's mean this is the idea of the mean. Means that the total number of every respondent that you have, and then you count it, and then you divide it, and then you know and understand what is the average of those counting. It is, I'm saying that it is not really accurate unless you are talking about the ordinal scale, because this is a sort of nominal scale. You got 0 and 1. So you can discuss back with your supervisor, but I think if you believe that it is okay, then proceed as it is. Okay, in this session, the questionnaire, I'm worried about the jaundice and so on with the mean. Okay, this is quite correct because you are talking about the mean and also the standard deviations in terms of some method mean. But this one is actually not some method mean. This one is overall mean for the total number of the people divided by the number of the responses. So you must be very careful what kind of interpretations that you are looking into. Okay, I think, in my opinion, the most important is actually your construct. Okay, if you really know your construct, then you should report. Okay, this is our idea only. With regard to this kind of method, because you got yes or no, so I may suggest better you put the percentage whoever answer it correctly and percentage whoever answer it wrongly. That one is much more preferred by the readers rather than you put the mean and standard deviation because it's not very correct. But if you want to tabulate something like this, better you put it inside the table rather than the textbooks or rather than the body text, because it's very hard to understand and digest these informations because you want to specifically talking about the construct of each of the responses. So I think this one should be considered to be organized in the tables. Each of your 5 attitudes questions and 5 practices questions. Okay, I think you may want to take into consideration to make some repair in terms of that. Okay, level of knowledge, poor, moderate, and then you got means and deviations and so on. Okay, just one idea. You know already your data is not normal. Then why you talk about mean and standard deviation? In the end of the day, you should talk your data in terms of the median and IQR. If you think that the mean and standard deviation also is one part of your MCT, go ahead. It's okay. But don't forget the real MCT that should be interpreted, which is the median and IQR. It is wrong. It is actually not correct. If I was your examiner, I will ask you to do resubmission and some sort of reorganizing your output. Okay, this is the level of attitudes. This is kind of makes sense because it is analyzed according to the questions. Okay, the level of attitude also same. When your data is not normal, please use the appropriate MCT. If you still want to use mean standard deviation because you like it, it's okay. But remember to put the real one. Remember to report the real one. The real one means that the real situation that should be reported. In this case, median and IQ are much more appropriate because the data is not normal. Very good. All right, this one is actually repeat again whatever that you have in the tables. Remember, your table should be self-explanatory. You don't have to repeat the same thing over and over again. You say it already inside the table, and then now you want to say it inside the body text. Why? Why you want to waste a lot of time? Actually, you have to understand the concept of self-interpretations. When people look into your table, they understand already, and then they read your body text to understand the things that they are not foreseen directly in your table. Therefore, the body text are going to help you to justify those informations. Okay. All right, this one need to be changed a little bit. Okay, the section D also I think is very appropriate and then kind of acceptable for the time being. And then the level of practices also need to be changed and also repair accordingly to the appropriate MCT. Okay, your data is not normal, focus on MD and IQR. All right, so the next one is descriptive statistics. So this is actually the unacceptable conditions of the reporting mechanism, because if you do like this, it's wrong already. Why I say it's wrong? Because you are actually doing the main practices according to the different two groups. Okay, you are splitting those groups, group 1 and group 2. So why you do this? Or what is the importance of this descriptive statistics? I think this one should be put inside your appendices rather than the body text, because the body text should be more simplified, talking about the conditions of the variable. You should put the total knowledge, mean practices, and also mean attitudes, and then you arrange their mean, mode, median, skewness, kurtosis, standard error, skewness, standard error, kurtosis, and justify accordingly your tables. If you not understand what I'm saying, please refer to my previous videos that talking about how you want to report those data in terms of data analysis. Okay, so all of these actually need to be inserted inside your appendices. If you put inside your body text, your supervisor or your examiner are going to suggest for resubmission. Okay, I hope that this sum up everything about the comment for this idea. Okay, this is what I said before. Usually our students or a lot of students outside there wrongly report in terms of this kind of analysis. See, chi-square test should be a report in terms of their frequency and percentage. You should report something like this. You should report the frequency and also the percentage, because the categorical data did not have the MCT. They just have the frequency and they just have the percentage to be presented. And then they have the value appropriate to the statistical analysis that you are conducting it. And then you have to report also the p-value. But it is not correct to just present something like this. It is very wrong. If you send this kind of report to me, then your report will be returned immediately and you have to make major repairs in terms of your way of presenting your output. Okay, same also goes to this. This is very unacceptable. I hope that the candidate or all of the students who listens to this webinar can get the idea. When you want to report your output, make sure you understand the element of your data. If your data is numerical, then you have to report their MCT. If your data is normal, the MCT will be mean and standard deviation. If your data is not normal, then the MCT will be IQR. IQR means that the quartile 1 and also the quartile 3. That's why I'm putting here quartile 1 and quartile 3. But to be true, some of your supervisor or some of your professor are going to ask you to do something like this. Just to put something like this, IQR, also correct. But you must understand that the left column is actually talking about the 25th percentile, and that another column is talking about the 75th percentile. So if you want to insert also something like this, it's also acceptable. Some of the students do like this, and I really appreciate their understanding. So this is how you want to present your data. If your data is not normal, using the non-parametric approach. If your data is normal, no need all these things. You can just present your mean and present your standard deviation straight away. Okay, so that is the idea. But what you did now is actually not very correct. You have to improve. So the next one is association test. I may want to repeat again and again. The association test should be put something like this. F and then in bracket percentage. Why? Because we want to make sure the reader understand the F is actually, or the number there without the bracket indicate the number of the cases or the number of the person that be indicated in that groups. And then another one is actually percentage, is actually looking for the proportion, because the chi-square is talking about a proportion. They are not talking about the tabulation. They are talking about the degree of freedom in terms of the data that already been arranged in the different degree of freedoms and according to the groups or proportion, or we call it as rates. That is the difference of using the chi-square as compared to the other kind of data analysis. Inferential statistical analysis. Okay. I really hope that ladies and gentlemen already understand. Okay, so I got this question here. Muhammad Khairul Ridwan Abdul Wahid. Can you do webinar on multivariable logistic regression and multinomial logistic regression in the future? Insha'Allah ta'ala alayya, Mr. Muhammad Khairul. But I really appreciate if you got the data and also the objective. Then we can discuss further in terms of how to manipulate the data and proceed with the data analysis straight away. So for your information, the multivariable logistic regression and multinomial logistic regression is a part of a simple understanding of logistic regression. So before you understand the logistic regression, ladies and gentlemen, all of you who listen to this webinar, you also have to understand the linear regression first, because the difference between the logistic regression and the linear regression is all about the assumptions of that of what we made. Okay, so if Mr. Khairul got the data and also the questionnaire and also the example, then you can share with us inshallah ta'ala, we are going to conduct the webinar talking about that. But I don't think that we can combine together lah, the multivariable logistic and then multinomial logistic should not be teach straight away one day. You will be hectic to be digest those things. Okay, but it's good. It's a good idea. If you got the data, please share with me. Then I can start up with the logistic regression first before we go for the multinomial or any multivariable logistic regression. It's actually simple. Okay. All right. So the next question, where can we get your videos? Oh, okay. Thank you for your comment, ma'am. Actually, the video is available in our YouTube channel. You can just go to our YouTube channel, and frankly speaking, we have more than 400 videos talking about SPSS data analysis and the other kind of software. All right, so I think I got a few minutes. If you got any questions, you can ask because all right, so Muhammad Khairul, thank you, sir. I'll share with you. Yeah, thank you very much. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, before I end up this webinar, let me share with you one important link. Maybe you want to ask or doing something. So if you got anything with regard to the discussion today and also your idea in terms of the content for the future webinar, you can join our Telegram. Okay, so this is our address for our Telegram. It is free, and then of course it is not paid. It's free actually. So you can just go here, t.me kajidata online _free, and then you can also visit our website kajidataonline.com. So if you are new to my channel, please consider to subscribe this channel because our channel is Kaji Data Online. We are going to give free webinar every week, hopefully, because sometimes some sort of occasion happen in our country. Therefore, we extend a little bit. All right. So the last but not least, if you got anything to ask, then please email to us. Okay, but please don't spam. Please don't spam. admin@kajidataonline.com. Okay, so we can discuss and then hopefully we can share together our idea and a way of analyzing data. So with that, thank you very much. Okay, before I before I finish this topic, perhaps in the future also you can explore this software that I'm going to explain. I think in the next topic we call it as a Jamovi, and then after that also we are going to explore about the JAPS. This is the free software that are very useful and very powerful in terms of helping you understand the regression analysis in a very simplified manner. All right, so any comment before I end up? Also another comment, Gama, thank you. I get confused with the different types of data and how to analyze each. Are the video you recommend that are simple to understand? Yes, Madam Wigawa, for your information, we got a playlist that are talking about 2 or 3 days courses talking about the data analysis, start from the how you want to arrange the data until you run your data analysis for the regression analysis. We got a playlist. I think it consists of more than 40 videos per playlist. So we got more than 3 playlists. So please go and find it out. And don't forget to ask questions and also comment so that we can improving our content in the future, inshallah. Okay. So I think that's all for today. For those who are interested, please don't forget to subscribe this Kaji Data Online channel, especially in YouTube. And if you are also learn this topic from Facebook, please also share this topic to your friend. If you want to make a shortcut based on what I explained just now, also, I'm very grateful for that. Okay, so with that, thank you very much for your cooperation and also for the attendees. And hopefully, if you feel this one is very useful in the future, inshallah, in the description also, please look into our webinar series because we also offer a free certificate available for the webinar, but not this webinar lah. I mean, in the future webinar. Hopefully, we can see you more in the future, and inshallah, with that, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening. ladies and gentlemen. See you again next time. Assalamualaikum. Bye-bye.